welcome to another episode of Disney Movie Investigation. If this is your first time watching, welcome to the show. In each episode, we take a look at a movie that is featured on Disney+. On this episode, we are taking a look at another animated princess as we take a look at Pocahontas. And if you are enjoying these videos, I do ask that you please hit that subscribe button. That way you'll be notified with each new episode. But for now, sit back and enjoy this episode of Disney Movie Investigation. So like I said, today we're covering Pocahontas. This movie was released on June 10th, 1995. It was directed by Mike Gabriel and Eric Goldberg. The screenplay was written by Carl Binder, Susanna Grant, and Phil Lazibink. The production company was Walt Disney Feature Animation, and it was distributed by Walt Disney Pictures. The budget for this movie was $55 million, and it did a box office return of $346.1 million. And now let's take a look at the backstory. So in terms of the production, following the release of The Rescuers Down Under, Mike Gabriel wanted to collaborate with Disney story artist Joe Grant. In April of 1991, they began to develop a story pitch for an animated adaptation of Swan Lake. They would develop both a storyline, story outline, and concept art. They would submit the project to Disney executives, but the executives thought negatively of the project. Gabriel would then return to another idea that he thought of doing a Disney animated movie that was more cemented in Western culture. When he submitted the idea of Pocahontas, he would take a image of Tiger Lily from Peter Pan with the Pocahontas lettering over top of the image. At the same time, Walt Disney Feature Animation president Peter Schneider was developing an idea for an animated version of Romeo and Juliet. Schneider would recognize that the similarities between Pocahontas and Romeo and Juliet, so they decided to greenlight the picture of Pocahontas. After Beauty and the Beast, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was Walt Disney Studio Animation president at the time, had high hopes on Pocahontas being the next big hit for Disney. He changed, however, several story points to make the movie more appealing to an older audience, and this included Pocahontas being older, a romance between her and John Smith, and the animals to be mute and not talk. Eric Goldberg was asked to co-direct with Gabriel after the success of animating the genie in Aladdin. Goldberg was inspired by the 1992 Los Angeles race riots to develop a more mature film than what Disney had done previously. Katzenberg would have a meeting with all the Disney animators, and he would go on to say that Pocahontas was the next big hit for Disney and that Lion King was more of an experiment. So many of the animators chose to work on Pocahontas as opposed to the Lion King. The story had several changes and developments. Story supervisor Tom Cieto would be the unofficial historical consultant and decided that the story of Pocahontas was far too complicated and violent for a family audience. The focus then was changed of the story for when Pocahontas met John Smith. One of the early ideas of the story was to have Pocahontas' mother be a star in the sky that would help her find the path to John Smith. This was discarded once Lion King had a similar scene where Simba looks to the stars with Mufasa. The villain was determined to be John Radcliffe, and this was based on real-life captains John Martin, Christopher Newport, and Edward Maria Wingfield. Another point is John Grant had developed the idea of Pocahontas' furry friends along with a turkey named Red Feather, and this was actually going to be voiced by John Candy. This character, however, would be dropped after the unexpected death of John Candy. Another version was to have a spiritual ancestor be a male named Old Man River, with the voice provided by Gregory Peck. However, when this was determined that it was to be more of a maternal figure, Peck turned down the role. In terms of the music, originally it was scheduled for Howard Ashman and Alan Menken to write the songs for Pocahontas once Aladdin was completed. However, Ashman tragically died in 1991, and it was assumed that Tim Rice, who helped Alan Menken finish Aladdin, would also collaborate with Menken on Pocahontas. However, Rice was way too busy doing not only Lion King, but found it very difficult to find time in his schedule to meet with Alan Menken. Disney would contact up-and-coming lyricist Stephen Schwartz, who was living in New York at the time, working on musical stage shows. The first song that was written was Colors of the Wind, and this is determined or was deemed to be the heart and soul of the piece. There was an additional song written, If I Ever Knew You, and that was finished and completed and fully animated. However, after test screenings, children and teen audiences were not interested in the song, so it would be dropped. It has recently been re-added to special edition DVD editions, though. So let's take a look at the cast. So we have Irene Bedard, who provides the speaking voice for Pocahontas, Judy Kahn, who plays the singing voice of Pocahontas, Mel Gibson provides the voice of John Smith, David Ogden Stiers provides the voice of Governor Ratcliffe, John Kasser provides the animal sounds for Miko, Russell Means provides the voice of Chief Powhatan, Christian Bale provides the voice of Thomas, Billy Connolly does a double role as both Ben and Joe Baker, Linda Hunt provides the voice of Grandmother Willow, Gordon Tutussus provides the voice of Kita, and Michelle St. John provides the voice of Nakoma. In terms of the plot, this is a Disney animated tale of romance between a young Native American woman named Pocahontas and Captain John Smith, who journeyed to the New World with other settlers to begin fresh lives. Pocahontas' powerful father, Chief Powhatan, disapproves of their relationship and wants her to marry the warrior of the tribe. Meanwhile, Smith's fellow Englishmen hope to rob the Native Americans of their gold, and it comes down to, can Pocahontas' love for John Smith save the day? So this was in the era of the Disney Renaissance. So this movie had an interesting marketing strategy. Disney would take a similar strategy to what they did for The Lion King, where the 4-minute musical number Colors of the Wind was shown in its entirety in November of 1994 with the re-release of The Lion King. Disney would also go on a promotional campaign where they would go on an 18-week promotional tour with mall exhibits entitled Pocahontas Animation Discovery Adventure. A Disney animator would escort shoppers through a presentation tour that featured flying birds, interactive lily pads, and a huge video wall. The exhibit also included a studio workshop where the guests could become the voice of their favorite animated character, along with an area where they can electronically manipulate voice messages. Guests would also learn about the design of Pocahontas, and an animator would show how the character was designed. Other promotional tie-ins for the movie included Burger King kids meal toys, Payless Shoes selling a line of moccasins, and Mattel selling a Pocahontas Barbie. A behind-the-scenes documentary was also aired on the Disney Channel entitled The Making of Pocahontas, A Legend Comes to Life, and this aired on June 20th, 1995. The film actually holds the record as holding the largest premiere in history on June 10th, 1995, when the movie was screened in New York City Central Park, along with a live performance from Vanessa Williams. The estimated attendance was over 10,000 people, and celebrities included Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Carolyn Kennedy, and Mariah Carey. In terms of the legacy of the film would win the Academy Award for Best Original Song for Colors of the Wind. A live musical show titled The Spirit of Pocahontas was performed in the Fantasy Theater in Disneyland and in Disneyland Paris. An additional live interactive show was added to Disney's Animal Kingdom called Pocahontas and Her Forest Friends, with a nature soundscape experience also added to Planet Rafiki, as well as a Pocahontas Indian village was added to the Frontierland section in Disneyland Paris. Pocahontas still can be met for photo ops, mostly in Animal Kingdom. She is often accompanied by Miko, but on rare occasions she will be accompanied by John Smith. A video game was released along with the film, and this was for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. And of course, Disney had their Disney on Ice show, and this would be called Disney on Ice Forever Love, featuring Pocahontas, and this would actually tour from 1996 to 2000. Pocahontas has made occasional appearances in other Disney films as well. She had her own direct-to-video sequel, Pocahontas 2, Brave New World, as well as she had a cameo in Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet. So would I recommend this movie? I think this movie often gets a mixed reaction. There's people that love the movie. There's people that are not so fans of the movie. Well, I think the movie is very beautiful with picturesque backgrounds and great animation. I think, for me, it leaves me kind of unsettled. I think, with the exception of Colors of the Wind, the songs are not very memorable and often forgettable. The story builds to a climax that unfortunately just leaves the audience kind of like, that's it? So I think it ends with a resolution that just feels flat. And while I give the credit to the directors for doing a non-Disney traditional animated ending, I think the movie just feels flat, and it kind of like, you're kind of wanting it to continue, but at the same time, you don't know where else it would go. So I do recommend this movie because it is very beautiful, and it does create a great message for kids. But to me, it's not one of those ones that I'm going to go back to very often. It's part of Disney tradition. I appreciate that it's there, but it's not definitely on my top 10. So thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of Disney Movie Investigation. I would love for anyone to please leave a comment on what they think of Pocahontas. So as we look forward to our next episode, we're going to take a lighter tone in our next episode as we take a look at the TV movie remake, The Beverly Hillbillies. And for our bonus story in that episode, we're going to take a look at the history of the Davy Crockett Explorer canoe ride in Disneyland. So until next time, I hope you have a magical day, and we will see you real soon.